We are live. Hello, hello, hello. This is the week, that awkward week between the holidays, the end of the year. We don't quite know what to do. Some people are working, some people aren't, but we are here live. I am here with Briea. We're going to be talking about something fun. We're going to be talking about good news and putting a positive spin on the new year for our team. Excuse me. It's the end of the year, so it is time to look forward. And we're going to be talking about helping our kids cultivate and craft a positive outlook despite what else is going on in the world. There is a lot of negative news. There's FOMO, the fear of missing out. Some of us have post-holiday blues. And Briea is going to share ways that we can take a fresh look on New Year's resolutions, help our teens do that. And she'll help us guide our teens as they make, get this, I love this idea, to feel lists rather than to do lists. I love this idea. Think of it this way. Think of it as a list of 10 things I can do to feel good in the new year. I think that's a really helpful way to approach the new year. And if we can model that and help our teens incorporate that into their lives, we may be off to a great 2023. Perfectly timed discussion. Welcome, Briea. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's wonderful to be here.
I love this because when we initially spoke, we had different ideas of topics, and this came from a comment that you made, and I think it's a perfect topic. So tell us a little bit about yourself and about your work.
Yeah, awesome. Perfect. So, a little bit about me. My background is primarily in counseling and education. I've been working with kiddos and teens and families for about 5 years now, a little bit over five. And currently, I work as a pediatric behavioral health coach, say that 5 times fast, at an organization called Brightline, which is the first ever virtual behavioral health solution built specifically for children, teens, and families. So we offer coaching and therapy services to target a broad range of needs for, kiddos, teens, and families.
Wonderful. It's well needed these days too. So I'm glad that there's something online, virtual for people. Welcome to our audience. I want to remind you that we are live and you can put questions or comments in the comment section and we will address them live on air. Let's jump right into it. As you can see, I am excited for this conversation. I'd love anytime we can put a positive spin on things, and if we can model that for our children, even better. So let's talk a little bit about why teens need a new perspective on New Year's resolutions. What was wrong with the old ways, or are we just upgrading?
Yeah, such a good question. I feel like the first thing that comes to my mind is that, if that old traditional way of looking at New Year's and New Year's resolution works for you and your family, my gosh, don't change, right? Keep that if it feels good, if it fits, right? I feel like today in this conversation is all about what feels good, right? We talk a lot about being in our heads and thinking. So let's talk today about what feels good. And so my spin on it, and what we've talked a lot about at Brightline here in the coaching realm for the last couple of weeks is over the holiday season, and especially as we approach the new year, instead of having that long to-do list, right? Because we've had that for weeks, haven't we, of leading up to the holidays and, do this, do this, do this, marking everything off. Instead of having that for the new year and post-holiday, let's have a to feel list. And so, what are some of those feelings that you want to cultivate, both as parents and as teens, right? So, make one as a parent, make one together as a couple if you're in a couple, and then help your teen make one. And so, this is really all about identifying and naming those feelings and putting them out there. And so what are those, right? Is it joyful? Is it calm? Is it different than 2022, how you felt or wanted to feel? Just having that really open conversation and really focusing on the feelings instead of all of those tasks.
Okay, okay. Um, so let's say we ask our teen or tween, how do you want to feel? And they say, I want to feel happy. I want to feel accomplished. Um, how do they proceed from there?
Yeah, so my question that I tend to ask tweens and teens in that situation is, well, what does that look like? I feel like that's always my question is, okay, what does that look like? What does being happy mean? What does that look like? And then usually they can give a bit of an example there. Although I feel like the most common answer is going to be, I don't know, right? And so my response to that, because I feel like parents are thinking, well, my teen is probably going to say, I don't know. My response to that would be, well, if you had to guess, right? If you had to take a stab at it. So that's where, yeah, those are the questions I would ask is so having those questions in your back pocket of, okay, what does happy look like? And from there, I think you're going to have other descriptive words come out. Well, I want to feel excited. I want to have something to look forward to, right? If that's what happiness is. And then let's dive into that a little bit deeper.
You said that's a good question to have in your pocket. What are other questions that we should have ready when we make the list? Because we know if we are fortunate enough to get our tween or teen to sit down with us and have this conversation, we're going to get those monosyllabic answers.
Mhm. Oh,
So, how do
100.
we? Can you give us some cheap language to probe further?
Yeah, yeah. So what does that look like? Probably my number one question. When was the last time you felt that? Right? Like, and their answers might really surprise you, They might really give an example that you didn't realize that that activity meant so much to them. And so, yeah, when was the last time you felt that? What are you thinking we can do to help you feel that, right? Like, what can I do? How can I be helpful in that? Because it might be something where your teen says, well, actually, that's more of like something that my friends are going to help me with, versus like my parents. So knowing your role, how can I help, right? Keeping those questions pretty brief, but just asking about your role in it. And yeah, just having them elaborate on some examples because as parents, we have in our minds what happiness might look like for us or for our teen, and it might just be totally off from what their version looks like. And so really making sure that you collaborate on that together.
How can we use this approach to stave off what I mentioned in the opening is that there is negativity and we're really trying to get them to take a positive approach, a positive jump to the year. But we know that they're looking at war in the news. They're looking at I mean, look at Buffalo just this yesterday. So
Yeah.
they're looking at some things that make them sad. They're on social media and they had a lovely family holiday, but their friend went to New Zealand. So now they're
FOMO.
like, yes, yes. Or it's just the post-holiday blues. It was wonderful and now it's over. There's all this buildup. Boom, it happens. And
And
now
then
it's over.
yep.
And I have this whole week home.
Mhm. Absolutely, absolutely. And so the way that I have been thinking about this is, there are so many different ways to approach it. And in my mind, I've sort of categorized the three top, words, I guess, or keywords here. So mindset, routine, connection, right? And this can apply to all of the situations that you just mentioned. So post holiday blues, that FOMO, which is huge around the holidays, being upset by things in the news, just all of these things. And so, mindset, routine, connection. And I can break those down a little bit. So, mindset is really looking at, what are they telling themselves? What's going on up here? What is that self-talk? That's a huge word that we talk about in coaching here at Brightline is yeah, let's look at that self-talk and how do we challenge it? How do we reframe it? And then expectations, right? So as parents, our expectations are going to be different from that of our teens. And so what are those expectations? Are we saying in our head shoulds, right? This idea of like shoulding all over ourselves. Do we have a lot of
Mhm.
those shoulds? And then, again, with mindset, circle of control, right? What's within our control and what's outside of our control. That is huge, especially thinking about FOMO and things that are going on around the world. So, yeah, so that is mindset. Routine is exactly how it sounds, right? Post holiday, there continues to be this break, and teens are don't have that normal routine. Like school is such a highly routinized thing. And when they don't have it, things tend to get sticky, right? They might be trying to create their own routine, or if parents are back to work, or, trying to balance seeing their friends with hanging out with their parents. And so, how do we cultivate that routine? So, this can look like encouraging your tweens and teens to do physiological things, right? So bodily movement, exercise, breathing techniques. So that adding that back into their routine because they were likely getting that at school. And then, of course, making sure that they do get a chance to see their friends because as teens, their brains are wired for that social connection. And so adding that as part of their routine, having that conversation. Yeah, and just so that's routine, right? Connection with
Mhm.
friends, and physiological strategies that help increase that dopamine. And then the last one is connection, right? And that one sounds pretty straightforward, but this is all about communication and collaboration. So talking about things that you want to do in the new year, right? Again, what does that look like? Really those probing questions and really collaborating on those together because this is going to increase teens' investment in those activities, right? If you say, well, what do you want to do versus here's what I have planned for us, right? Those are totally two different conversations. And so that connection is all about increasing that investment, getting them motivated and excited for new things, new activities and traditions in the new year. And something I would add to connection too is, if you sort of know your teens' love language, so to speak, right? Do they like quality time? Are they more about gifts, right? Whatever that looks like to them, create those connection points for what you know is going to feel good, right? Again, with the feelings is going to feel good to them. So that's connection. So lots in there, but yeah, mindset, routine, connection.
Got it. Mindset, routine, connection. So if we go back to the list, and I know that you've done 10 things I can do to feel good list with teens.
Mhm, mhm.
Tell us a couple of things that you've seen on real live lists so we know what to expect.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. None of these are gonna be surprising, right, as parents of teens, but lots of calling my friend on FaceTime, lots of playing basketball, going for a walk, right, some sort of bodily movement, playing a video game, right, something that they don't always feel like they have the time to do during a regular routine school week. Yeah, hanging out with my family, that comes up all the time, I think we assume that our tweens and teens don't necessarily wanna do that, but I 100% of the time, that's on their list in some capacity. Yeah, so it's really again, it's all about family time, friend time, and, like, movement, getting back into that routine.
Okay, okay. I'm glad to hear that they put family time on their list.
Yay, always.
And
Yeah.
that it's something that feels good. It's a feel good list and that feels good to them. So we're happy about that. If we have a child who's a little reluctant to participate in the activity, is there some kind of way that we can gear them or, push them towards it? We don't want to dominate and force them, but is there a way that we can make it look attractive to them?
Yeah, it's such a good question. Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind for me is model that behavior, right? If you're wanting your reluctant teen to make a to feel list or a list of things that they can do to feel good, and you feel like if you approach them with that, they're gonna be like, I don't know about that." Make one yourself, right? Put it up somewhere visually on the refrigerator, on the counter, and, talk with them about your own as a parent, that list, what that looks like, what that feels like, and then just create that safe space for them to wanna talk about the same things, right? Don't force it, but I would say create that safe space and let them know that if they would like to make that list too, that would be awesome. And you'd love to hear about what's on their list and how it's different from your list as a parent. And yeah, and even infusing some humor in there. Like, I know this might not be your idea of a good time, but if you are interested, let's do it, right? And again, just creating that space for them to come back when they do feel a little bit more interested to say, okay, yeah, I'll talk about 3 of them versus 10, right? But yeah, just really set up that space so that they know. And if you can get them laughing and all of that good stuff, then that loosens up those inhibitions a little.
So I had a spark when you were talking about modeling and stuff. A lot of families have good luck and a good time doing vision boards this time of year. And I'm
Yep.
thinking that if you can make it crafty or kind of visual that way, and it's a to feel list, but a la the vision board technique, if you have a child or children who are interested in doing things crafty or artsy like that, which also can be done digitally. You can do that kind
Yes.
of stuff digital. You don't have to just cut from magazines. So it's
Mhm.
whatever your child likes. So that's my spark of
I love
of
it, I love
creativity.
it. Yeah, plus, right, it gives them free reign to be on Google Images and Pinterest, right, and things that right, they get to be on their screens, right? How exciting for them, feels like they're getting away with something, but they're also helping you with this activity of getting them talking, right? It's kind of this idea. I had a thought that came to my mind earlier. I think it's Dan Siegel who says this, "Name it to tame it," right? Like, just put it out there. If we name the feeling, then it's out there and we could talk about it and it feels good, right? And so anytime we can just get kids talking and however we need to do that, and usually incorporating screens is a really good way to do that, then yeah, go for it. Be creative.
So that's it, parents. Be creative. Just remember that it's about feelings and not tasks. Because sometimes resolutions, lists, and visions have to do with tasks. As long as you keep it on feelings, you'll still be doing the same thing. Here's a question. So
Okay.
we've had a lot of success with this. We have boards, they're creative, their kids got into it. It was a win. We're feeling really good about ourselves. Should we follow up? This is for the whole year. Are we supposed to check in with them, or are we supposed to let it be, or what do we do after this?
Yeah, I would always say check in, right? But again, create that space of checking in. If don't force it. If it feels like the first time that you check in that it doesn't go very well, "Ooh, okay, that was a little bit touchy," then that's okay, right? But keep checking in. Just leave it open. Hey, let's create a system for when you did feel this feeling. Let's write what that activity was, or let's just put like a check mark beside it, right? Whatever that looks like for your teen, or whatever you feel like is going to be motivating for them. But definitely check back in. And if you notice that 2 months later they're like, I haven't felt any of that, right? They're being really resistant, they're being really challenging, roll with that resistance, right? Ask those open-ended questions. Okay, we haven't felt this since, X, Y, and Z time. So what can we do? Like, what could we do this weekend, right? To help cultivate that feeling? What about this thing that's coming up? Do you think that's going to help with that? And if not, what can I do to help, right? Be curious, stay curious, but definitely follow up. Yeah, because then that just keeps that conversation going, and that's what you want.
I like what you said about what can we do to help cultivate that feeling. I think that's a really good starting point for parents along after the activity, the primary activity happens, and it's about the follow-up and the to doing. What can we do to cultivate that feeling that you said you really would like to have? I thank
Yeah,
you for that. I love that.
absolutely.
Is there anything that we've missed? Any key components to this that parents should know?
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I'm sure there are things that we've missed, right? There are so many things that go into this, but I think, if we're really keeping those things in mind and we're being curious, we're asking those questions, we're creating that open space, then yeah, that's going to lead to some really awesome and interesting conversations with your teens,
Which is what we want. That
which
goes
is
back to
what
your
we want.
connection.
That's the goal, right? Mindset, routine, connection, and connection underlies all of it, right? With that connection comes a lot of awesome things.
Thank you for
Thank
spending
you.
time with us this morning. I know that it is your day off, and it's a lot of people's day off, but
Yeah,
you are working with us on your day off, and we appreciate it. Thank you for spending time with us.
thank you for having me. It's been wonderful.
Oh, you're very welcome. And thank you, audience, for spending your time with us during this awkward week between the holidays. Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.